What is up, YouTube? My name is Mario, and it's time for us to have an adult, substantive conversation about the Palworld Pokemon lawsuit. There's been a ton of people talking about this lawsuit, and most of the takes are either like way over here, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Nintendo is so bad. Oh, this is terrible. Nintendo is the villain." Or they're way over here where they're like, "Oh my gosh, Palworld is this reductive a ripoff of Pokemon. It steals everything." Like, let's for a second, let's break it down and just have an adult conversation about what's going on with this patent lawsuit, why it's good, why it's bad. Let's just talk about it. What is up, YouTube? My name is Mario, aka the Loot Box Hero. Check out the second channel, because the second channel is absolutely popping. I just dropped 2 videos over there, and they are burning up the interwebs, so that's pretty good. You can check those out if you like. After this one, of course, aka the real Super Mario, aka YouTube's greatest fat man here, bringing you another video. Alright, so Pokemon and Palworld. So Pokemon Palworld lawsuit had been brought back into the news zeitgeist, mainly due to a post from Palworld announcing that they had to strip more features from their game because they were violating patents from Nintendo in their ongoing patent lawsuit. So the post is as follows. Furthermore, we regret to inform our players that with the implementation of patch version 0.5.5, we must make yet another compromise. From this patch onward, gliding will be performed using a glider rather than pals. Pals in the player's team still provide passive buffs to gliding, but players will now have to have a glider in their inventory in order to glide. We understand that this will be disappointing for many, just as it is for us, but we hope our fans understand these changes are necessary in order to prevent further disruptions in the development of Palworld. We also extend our apologies to our fans for the discomfort and concern in this ongoing litigation has caused. We remain committed to developing Palworld and delivering an exciting new in quotation marks, because it is Palworld, new content for our fans. On behalf of everyone at Palparrot and Team Palworld, thank you again for your continued support. So basically, they're slowly taking out the features that are breaking the patents that Nintendo sued them for. And if anything, this is kind of a good thing for them, because you can still glide in the game, but you just have to use a glider. So, how did this all start? Well, if you don't remember, back in November, Nintendo filed a patent lawsuit, a lawsuit for patent infringement, not copyright infringement, alright, because a lot of people were saying that it was copyright infringement. Even people that made videos recently have been saying that it was copyright infringement. It's not copyright infringement, it's patent infringement. Even though some of the Palworld designs are very, 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 very similar, it's not a copyright lawsuit, it's about patents. So they signed they did a patent lawsuit against Palworld for certain gameplay mechanics that were patented by Nintendo that were used by Palworld. And a lot of people saying, well, they did this after Palworld was announced. They did this so late. Why did it? Well, not necessarily. The announcement of Palworld and the patents were signed in the same year. Alright, and not to mention, the first trailer for Palworld didn't have any catching mechanics in it, and that was one of the main things that got them sued, was the catching mechanic. So nobody knew that Palworld's catching mechanic was basically going to be the same thing as Pokemon's when they first announced the game in their first trailer. So at the same time that Palworld was being developed, Pokemon was also working on Pokemon Legends Arceus. So this will be their first breakaway from some of the main tenets of their Pokemon games, like Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield. And this is kind of where the similarities start to make sense. And if you look at it, you know, back in February, Pokemon Scarlet Legends Arceus was announced, and then that same June, Palworld was announced with very similar elements to Legends Arceus. Now, I'm not saying that Pocket Pair basically just saw Legends Arceus and was like, hey, let's do the same thing that they're doing, because both of these games were in development at the same time, and neither one of them actually knew what the other one was doing, unless there's some corporate espionage going on, which would make this whole situation that much more interesting. But the similarities are there, and it's understandable why Nintendo started making patents, because, oh, they're making a game that's very much like the same thing we're making. And that goes double for Project Rodeo. But Project Rodeo was a planned Pokemon game conceptualized back in 2020, set in the new Rodeo region. It featured Berserk Pokemon, rideable Pokemon, cooperative gameplay for up to 4 players on mobile and Switch. And this game was designed with gameplay elements similar to Splatoon. As of now, the project has been canceled and has probably evolved into Project Synapse. But essentially, Project Rodeo and now Project Synapse also have a lot of similarities to Palworld. Right down to, oh look, there's a cute chick riding on top of a Pokemon, the same way the first character we ever saw from Palworld was a cute chick riding on top of this Electabuzz looking thing. The similarities are there. I mean, Nintendo has been here before where there's a game that does something very similar to what they're doing, which is probably why they decided to start dropping these patents in the first place. Genshin Impact is basically a Breath of the Wild-ish gacha game that has, a lot of the same visual style and gameplay of Breath of the Wild. And people were pissed about this because a lot of people thought it was just a PlayStation-centric Breath of the Wild ripoff. Alright? So much so that people were destroying PS4s in Japan. And while Nintendo didn't really say anything about this, you could probably imagine Nintendo was pretty pissed, seeing as though that, they made this game and then somebody just basically jacked the style and gameplay of that game and basically created an entire media empire off of it. And the same thing was happening with Palworld. Alright, because Palworld is not just this little indie game that people seem to talk about. Palworld signed a marketing deal with Microsoft, so now they have Microsoft money behind them. They also signed a media deal with Sony, so that Sony will make, movies and TV shows and various other things for Palworld using the PALs. Some of them who, suspiciously look very similar to Pokemon. They also created their own publishing company and Pocket Pair, to whereas they can publish other people's games. So basically, a multimedia empire was built off of very similar Nintendo mechanics again. Okay, all right, and Nintendo didn't sue, the guys that made, Genshin Impact, but I guarantee you they're not gonna let people continue to do this to them over and over again. So, how does this affect the industry? What are the good and the bad things that this does for the industry, not just, for Palworld or Pocket Pair on Nintendo or Pokemon? Well, it does have some pretty sweeping effects, some good and some bad. For one, it sets up the precedent of companies basically making these patents for gameplay mechanics and then kind of sitting on them and basically using them as a way to guard their position in whatever market they happen to be in, because that's one thing that this is doing, is protecting Pokemon's market share. The other thing it does is it also kind of forces creativity. I mean, because you can't really do the Genshin Impact thing if you're worried about getting sued. You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, what if Ubisoft copyrighted the towers and then they couldn't put the towers in Breath of the Wild? Well, yeah, that would be a good thing. All right, who likes Ubisoft towers? I mean, I like the concept of Ubisoft towers. If I was making a game, I think it's a pretty good concept. But most people don't like Ubisoft towers. So if Ubisoft copyrighted that idea, then guess what? Most people wouldn't be using them. So then there would be no Ubisoft towers outside of Ubisoft games. Wouldn't that make people happy? Not to mention that would also force game companies to come up with their own gimmicks. Alright, I mean, because Nintendo copyright or patented the the catching mechanics in Pokemon, well, now more Monster Tamer games are coming up with new mechanics, new ways to catch their monsters so they don't get sued like Palworld did. You look at games like Damn Champions, where they're basically it's a Monster Tamer game, but it's similar to Pokemon, but not. They don't use the same mechanics. They don't really use the same ideas. It's just similar in theme. And last time I checked, you don't really get sued for themes unless you're in the music industry, where you can get sued for a jingle. Another bad thing about studios patenting these gameplay mechanics is the gameplay mechanics can die with the studios. The Nemesis system, all right, Warner Brothers Productions or Warner Brothers Games, they had the Nemesis system in their Lord of the Rings games, and that system is probably going to die with them unless David Zaslav decides he wants to make some money and starts, actually licensing it out to other companies. But I don't know if he really wants to make money or really cares about video games for that matter. If something bad were to happen to Nintendo, catching mechanics like what we see in Legends Arceus or what we see from Tears of the Kingdom, because of course after the whole Genshin debacle, they also have patents for the stuff we saw in Tears of the Kingdom, like phasing through objects and whatnot. All that stuff could die forever. It could be gone because those patents are held by Nintendo. But I mean, Nintendo's not gonna die because it's what it is, But there's also good things to this as well. All right. And one of the biggest good things that could come of this is the fact that, well, we're kind of in an age of ripoffs when it comes to video games. All right, and I'm saying this in the best way possible, but we kind of are. I mean, look at some of the biggest games that have come out, or some of the biggest new games that have been announced. You look at things like Palworld. Palworld in itself is a fun game, but in itself, there's not a lot of original there with Palworld. You've got, the Pokemon kind of monster taming mechanics. You've got like some gunplay, which is pretty cool, but you've also got a lot of stuff from Rust. You got stuff from RimWorld. You got stuff from basically bits and pieces of other games that have been kind of like wood glued together with like, a loose plot and some kind of interesting monster designs. And that's really it. There's not a lot that is original with Palworld, But even worse than Palworld, you have games like Light of Motrum. Light of Motrum is basically just Horizon Zero Dawn if it was made by Chinese people. All right, that's basically what it is. All right, there's nothing original about Light of Motrum at all. It's basically Horizon Zero Dawn, right down to the poster and the main character. All right, and guess what? People actually they accept this. They say, okay, well, it's cool.
Even the grass is the same? I have no investment in Horizon. If they think that they have an intellectual property dispute with this game, then they can settle that in court. I am but a mere consumer. Their problems are not my problems. Their issues are not my issues. I don't care. Doesn't matter. If the game is fun, then I play the game. Yep, I just want to consume.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Because we're in an age of ripoffs, Marvel Rivals. Our Marvel Rivals is basically just Overwatch with licensed characters from our childhoods and a dummy thick blonde fetish. That's basically what Marvel Rivals is. All right, it basically took the framework of what people liked from Overwatch, added in licensed Marvel characters, and a bunch of dummy thick blondes. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but people don't really talk about that enough. The fact that this is kind of a ripoff. They just say, oh, well, game's fun. That's all they care about. It's fun, though. It's really fun. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it's kind of a ripoff, And yeah, Overwatch is also a ripoff of Team Fortress 2, but they did add some things to it. What has Marvel Rivals added to the Overwatch formula that wasn't already there, with the exception of like hero bands? Come on, drop it in the comments. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with Palworld, you know. It's kind of the same way. And we're entering this age where ripoffs are acceptable now. It is totally cool to have a ripoff of Horizon Zero Dawn because, oh, well, at least I can play Horizon Zero Dawn with the cute chick. And, you know, I don't have to play with Nikocado Avocado. You know what I'm saying? But with the patent, with game companies patenting gameplay mechanics, this could kill this age of ripoffs. You can't make a light of Motrim if the mechanics of Horizon Zero Dawn are patented by Sony. If Sony patented those mechanics, Light of Motrim doesn't happen unless they actually put in some work and make an original game. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's some good and bad things to this, all right? You know what I'm saying? I do think that the patent situation could cause some damage to some games. It could cause people to not want to get into certain parts of the game industry, like making Monster Tamer games. But it could also, you know, free up creativity in the industry, because now you don't have to just make a Pokemon-like game to be successful. You know what I'm saying? Because making a Pokemon-like game can get you sued. Now you're free to actually make something else. You know, so tell me what you think in the comments. I know this kind of got a little rambly at the end because, you know, it was scripted, but I didn't like the script. I'm not a huge fan of writing scripts, but it is what it is. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Do you think, Mario, you're just a Pokemon shill? You're just an Overwatch shill? You just dick riding Nintendo, blah, 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 blah? Or do you think that there is some good to be had from this whole patent situation? Tell me in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, people, keep it real.